All right, I would like to call the Dalton Township Planning Commission meeting for September 3rd, 2025 to order at 6 o'clock. Roll call. Dave, here. Casey?
Here.
Jesse?
Here.
Pat is excused. John? Here. Lee is excused. Mark?
Here.
We have an agenda tonight. Anything to add?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Support.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Move forward with that. Next, we have the approval of the minutes from the August 26th, 2025 meeting.
Make a motion to approve the minutes from August 25th, 26th.
Motion and support. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right. Next up, we have public comment. We do have some items farther down in here. If you are here for one of those, you may at that point have your conversation, explain what's going on. Otherwise, we open now. It's the general public comment. You have up to 3 minutes to tell us anything, ask us anything. I will go ahead and open that at 6:02. Not a big crowd tonight, so if there are no public comments at this point, I will go ahead and close the public comment also at 6:02. All right, we have no items for public hearing. We do have the planning and zoning report. You can see that Clay has been very busy, as has Steve and Troy. The Dalton Township thing, is there anything, any notice on that, Stephen, that you need to, is there gonna be anything for us at this point in that, or just a notice?
Just information
Okay,
that they are in the process of amending their master plan.
That John Warner, the same John Warner, was at the county, I guess.
More than likely.
Wonderful.
all right. It moves us through to new business. First up, we have PC 25-10 at 2930 East Riley Thompson Road. The site plan review for Rosamond Enterprises LLC. And Brody, are you here?
Yes.
Okay. Hey, what, to start this off, why don't you go ahead, we like to give the person an opportunity to kind of explain what it is you're doing.
Sure. To add some heated storage in our property over on Johnson, looking to build a little storage shop, so.
And that's to the east side of the property, kind of where the cars were parked today and that, okay.
Yes.
I was out there today right before I came here, talked to a couple workers, and they gave me the look. You got good security there.
That's good.
They run it. So it's the building as it sets in the same location on the diagram. Okay. Any questions for Brody? Oh.
Basically,
All right, thank you so much. And at this point, this would be voting to send it through to public, or to an item for public hearing.
Yes. Okay.
There's a sample motion. Is there any questions or dialogue amongst? It's pretty straightforward.
Make a motion to approve case PC 25-10, site plan review for an additional building for heated storage to be constructed at 2930 East Riley Thompson Road as proposed.
Support.
All right, we'll take a roll call vote. Dave, yes. Casey?
Yes.
Jesse?
yes.
John?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
That moves forward to the board. All right, if you want to stay and be mesmerized by us as we discuss, we have 2 more items left here today. You're more than welcome to stay for that. Otherwise, I know dinner's waiting. You are free to go. We got everything set for you. All right, thank you.
You bet.
The Lakewoods Addition Sub-Area Plan. Like the new map, Steve.
Is all the yellow on the north side all residential and the only flex development is Sanctuary and Russell?
Correct.
Okay,
Yep, I just noticed I need a better color differentiation.
they're pretty close, but I have trouble with
Little
yellow.
It's a little better on the screen, but
Okay.
make sure I change.
Oh, and I originally looked at it online and I don't remember having any trouble differentiating the two.
Oh, yeah, I need to get that. Flex development, yeah.
So it's essentially a flexible overflow for when Leatherman finishes his project. Anything could be, if we need to give a little more to a different developer for more development, then that's the area where we would draw that from.
Roughly how large is that one?
That is. That area itself would probably be about 100 to 150 acres,
Oh my God.
but only 40 to 50 acres of that would be developed. It would just be kind of a flexible, like anywhere in this area, 40 to 50 acres could be developed. The rest of it would be geared more towards conservation than sparse development. And then it's a large number of township parcels interspersed with smaller, lots.
Are you looking at this? Is this something we would then vote on tonight to send to the board? Or,
This is just more input and discussion,
okay,
seeing if we're on the right track or if there's anything that needs to be changed or things on.
anything from the commission?
I feel like this is very close to what we were talking about. Is there new development happening already on Sanctuary or just that was included in new development because it's already an actual road?
Yeah, so it's a private driveway right now. The gentleman gave it a road name.
Ah,
He has. He has floated the idea of maybe making it a private road and developing the lots that he owns.
okay.
And since it's all privately owned property through there, it makes sense to allow that to be developed
Okay.
as a private development.
Yeah, and just so everybody knows, so on that Sanctuary Drive, which is, so they show them two little strips of orange lots there. Can't remember his name, but he had built a house back
Yeah,
there.
Jim.
Jim. He owns the north side of that Sanctuary Drive. My wife and I own the south side of that strip of lots. I have no interest in developing them, to be honest with you, but Jim might, I don't know. But just so you guys are aware that south side of that drive is strip lots my wife and I own.
Yeah, there's also a the northeast corner of that development area near Lakewood and Russell, about 30 acres. I don't believe that gentleman plans on developing that either. But I think it makes sense to be in that group in case, 10, 30 years from now, he's thinking, oh, well, maybe I wanna add a couple more houses or see if I can talk to a developer about more. So just, we can keep his options open as well, or not saying they have to develop it, it's just saying we'd be open to you developing it if the conditions are right.
From your discussion, I think that is pretty close to what my memory is, that's what we had kind of talked about, was leaving some of it is conservation, a majority of it, and that's kind of what's happening there, so it looks that the opportunity to develop it. Any other feedback or questions, comments?
I mean, if we gotta do anything, this is it's probably the way to go about
At this point, we would have, the conservation would not be open for development then, is that correct?
So it would be. I think that's how I worded it. It would be more the township wouldn't target it or selling to developers or people that would create, half acre parcels. It would be more if someone's got half an acre already and they'd like to build on their parcel, they're free to do so. Maybe the township will give, be open to selling some land around that in order to assist with that. But the idea would ultimately be to have large tracts of land conserved or used for community forestry or other purposes. But definitely, wouldn't preclude people from building on their land if they're able. If somebody wants to, have 40 acres for a private preserve, maybe, maybe the board would feel that meets the requirements.
Okay.
They're just, and then maybe the board, or maybe the plan would suggest that in cases like that, there'd be conservation easements where so much of the land is perpetually undeveloped, where, the development rights are not there. I believe on much of these parcels, the state retained the mineral rights when they sold them to the township.
As a board, I guess at this point, we're saying this is what we'd like to move
Yeah.
forward with?
Yep.
Right, I think that's,
The new development, I guess the only thing I'm questioning with the new development, I'm just going through it just now, but the 20,000 square foot lot sizes is, I guess, a Lakewood Club thing. But our Dalton's R1 is a 1 acre, but
Dalton's R1 is 1 acre. Our M district is 20,000 square feet.
our M.
Yeah, so manufactured homes,
Oh, yep.
which is also adjacent to these areas. So right on the west side of automobile, it's 20,000 square feet minimum. That actually used to be the standard throughout the township.
Was it?
For this ordinance.
All right, sounds like we've got a consensus that it's leaning the right direction and it's heading the way we would like it to go, so. Anything else we need to do on this before we prepare something to send through to the board, or is this just something for?
This is just conversation, making sure we're in the right direction on this part of the plan. I'm hoping to have a full draft in October
Okay,
to review, or at least most of it.
so if we've got that one addressed, that brings us to the discussion item for multifamily residential.
This request is basically to, instead of having 2 acres, it's say 1.5 acres, 4 acres. For a special land use or multifamily. The ordinance allows it at 16 acres or up to 16 units per acre. If the planning commission feels it's appropriate, that density likely would be appropriate in an area like Twin Lake, but maybe 6 units would be appropriate. The owner expressed that he doesn't want to do like a larger, he doesn't want to do a large multi-unit building. Could be more either standalone units or duplexes, all on the same parcel, which in Twin Lake would fit better with the surrounding aesthetic. You wouldn't have an overbearing large building surrounded by smaller homes. You'd have smaller buildings that would fit in.
Thoughts on this?
Can't you just change the definition? Because because what you're defining is what a multifamily dwelling is. And can you, I don't think you can just sub in a parcel, because it's not a parcel, I think we'd have to. Because it's still, a multifamily dwelling still is a building. But maybe we could add language that said something about referencing the parcel, but I'm not sure you could just change the definition like that. But I could be wrong. It just doesn't feel grammatically correct to me to be defining. Because a dwelling is another name for a building, so I don't think you can suddenly just start talking about the parcel.
Yeah, so the special land use is multiple family housing.
But the 1648, the title is multifamily dwelling.
Multifamily dwelling, so there's some disconnect there.
Okay,
You might be able to change the title
okay,
to multifamily housing.
that makes sense too. Okay.
There's a couple areas in here where the special use listed is different than the special use in the standards, but we're able to basically just say, well, that's the intent.
Okay.
Because I think 6 units on a piece of parts, or 6 units on a piece of property is 6 units. Regardless of whether they're in a building or not, when it comes to impact. You're still generating the same amount of traffic, you're still generating the same amount of waste that needs to be put on by a septic.
So the motion would be for 1648 to be changed to multifamily housing. As far as the
Yeah, so we would change the subtitle. And then modify the definition. And basically allow for a little more flexibility in what can be approved as a multifamily housing. This wouldn't be wouldn't have to be a decision today, as this discussion as to whether or not it's a change the planning commission feels is appropriate. If you feel it's appropriate, I can come up with a draft of a potential ordinance change. If not, we won't pursue it any further.
Definitely gotta change the definition.
because it's 3 buildings, 2 each.
But,
multifamily is a 4-unit or more building, and you've got 3 duplexes, that just doesn't fit. Rather see duplexes than small apartment buildings.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
What would happen if you, if in 7.2, you just changed B to duplexes, other 2-family dwellings and multiple family dwellings up to 6 units? If you just change that, would you have to change all the stuff in 1648? Because then you wouldn't be looking at it as a special land use, it would just be a permitted use.
Okay, so
Where are you at again?
7.2B.
Says duplexes and land building structured in the R2 district may be used only for the following purposes. B is duplexes, other 2-family dwellings, and multiple family dwellings up to 4 units.
I mean, you still would have to change 7.53 then, because it says up to 4 units. You'd have to change the 4 to 6 in several places. But, and yeah, in B, when it says minimum, you still are running into that multiple family dwelling up to 4 units, 300 feet width, so we'd also have to adjust that. So I guess it feels like maybe 6 one way, half dozen the other.
I think essentially 5 units on a parcel is, once you hit 5 units on a parcel, then you hit special land use territory where it has more impact and maybe needs that public hearing to determine that, to make sure there's no serious adverse effects.
Do you feel like there's a big difference between 4 and 6? I mean, you are still talking about single family units, basically, aren't you?
Yeah.
So instead of 4 families, it's
Single
just
or
6
couple.
families, so maybe like another 12 people or so.
Yeah.
And I'm sure when this came about, they were like, yeah, just put 4 on it. I'm sure there was no rhyme or reason behind picking 4 units as what a multifamily was defined as.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of things where it's an arbitrary line.
Yep.
It's a seemingly arbitrary line, but it's a line in that gray area. And you have to, like, what percent of gray are we gonna put that arbitrary line in?
Is that what the definition of units is? One. So when it says duplex, other 2-family dwellings and multiple family dwellings, 2, 4 units.
And I think there's definitely better ways we could write that. Like we could write the ordinance to say, so many units on a parcel are permitted. To allow for flexibility. Without rewriting the whole chapter, I don't think there's any good way of doing that.
How many people are doing 4 units right now? I mean,
Right now,
how often is that?
I have not seen any. I believe those would also need site plan review. So anything, duplexes are permitted by right without site plan review. But anything 320 would need site plan review. And
They are the
Anything.
duplexes.
duplexes, 2 units, They're typically 1,500 a unit. The two that I've seen are roughly 3-bed, 2-bath.
Yeah, some duplexes have 3 beds and some only have 2.
Yeah. So
Their plans.
they just built one up on Whitehall Road by Duck Lake.
Because that also answers your questions on what's needed for waste removal and that sort of thing, as far as how many.
Yeah, and we did talk to the health department. Something like this would be adequately served by a central commercial unit.
And right now, I mean, it looks like to me, I mean, right now, they would be okay to build 2 duplexes, just not 3. Looking at the R2, or the lot size anyways, looks like they can build 2, no problem. That's the issue we're running into, right? Is they can build 2, but they can't build 3.
I think they can only build one. Because in B where it just says duplexes,
Yeah, so it's duplex and other 2-family dwelling. 1 per acre under 7.5A. And then 7.53 further by multi-family dwelling up to 4 units, 60,000 square feet. And that's by right. So I would interpret that to be everything is in one building.
right? So you can either build one duplex or one fourplex, right? Is that what it's saying? But it's still one building.
Triplex or a fourplex,
Okay, yeah, a tri,
yeah,
but it's a single building.
correct, it would be a single building.
Okay.
Double check the definition of multifamily dwelling. Yeah, dwelling, a building including a mobile home or manufactured home designed and used as permanent residence for a family, including 1-family, 2-family, and multi-family dwellings, but not including hotels, motels, tourist cabins, or trailers. And then multifamily dwelling definition is a building containing more than 2 dwelling units. Then we could also potentially look at adding language that say you can have multiple principal buildings. I think that would be more complicated than just changing the special land use to allow for it. I think the ordinance, it looks like the intent of the ordinance by right allowing up to 4 units on a 60,000 square foot parcel by right. It's like that's the capacity that we feel is appropriate without taking a closer look at the impact.
You know what's interesting? The way this is written right now, in 7.2, it says it's permitted a multiple family dwellings of up to 4 units is permitted. So then you go to look and see what a multiple family dwelling, and it says a building containing more than 4 dwelling units. So to me, that's saying you can have up to 4 multiple family dwellings up to 4 units. That's basically saying you can have like 16 units on a property. Because it's saying, in here, it's saying that you can have multiple family dwellings up to 4 units, and then it's defining what that is as a building, so individual building containing more than 4 dwelling units. Does that mean you can have 4 different buildings on a parcel right now, and each of the buildings can contain more than 4 dwelling units? It sounds to me like that's like an apartment complex.
I don't think that's what it's talking about. I think it misuses it uses multi-family dwelling.
It's a really bad idea to say a multiple family dwelling and then define it in your book as something that's not what you intend.
Yeah. And this whole ordinance is essentially a patchwork now.
Yeah,
Um,
because I feel like it's saying by right, you could have an apartment complex. You can have a multiple family dwelling up to 4 units, and then that is a building containing more than 4 dwelling units inside of it.
duplexes. Yeah, I would read that to say multiple families up to 4 units. Like, so the multifamily cannot exceed
Like a
4 units.
That's the way.
Yeah, but then we've defined it as a building containing more than 4 units. So is it contain 4 or does it contain more than 4? Because this book says it's both.
Saying multiple family dwellings up to 4 units. So,
Yeah, but then look at the definition in 16.
Yeah, it's not defining a multiple family dwelling, it's saying a multiple family unit that's up to 4 units.
It is defined in 1648, under the special land uses, so then you have to flip to that section. And then there's actually a legal definition in this book that says a building containing more than 4 dwelling units is the definition of a multifamily dwelling.
Yeah, you're right. So it should not use the terminology.
Right, it needs to change, something is being used interchangeable that's not interchangeable.
Okay, so in the definitions,
Like in a different section?
yep, in chapter 2,
Oh, boy.
it says a building containing more than 2 dwelling units. So it's using the terminology as defined in chapter 2. Then you flip to chapter 16, that's the definition of the special use itself. So that
Into
definition-
what number is it?
Yep, so it's 2.230 on page CD 6. Yeah, so the definitions in chapter 16 only apply to the use itself. It shouldn't be used outside of that chapter. Unless we need to reference it because it's not defined in the definitions.
So now that we've kind of pulled on the string hanging out of our sweater, what do we do with this one? Do we rewrite the definition? Do we rewrite the special use definition?
Say if it's something you want to pursue, we change the requirements of the special use.
I'm just dumb and I'm just gonna say it anyway. I don't understand why we have a definition for a multiple family dwelling in here twice and it's different. Why does in the beginning of the book it say 2 units and then in here it says 4 units? Which one is it?
Yeah, so
If you're approving a special land use, you only go in the 1648, you don't look at the section 2? What is section 2 for then?
So section 2 defines terms throughout the ordinance.
Okay, but they're different.
Yep, and when you turn to chapter 16, the definition,
It says dwelling, comma, multifamily, and it contains more than 2 dwelling units. And then here it says multifamily dwellings, the same exact word or 3-word phrase, a building containing more than 4 dwelling units. I don't understand how those two can be different, and that's not confusing to anybody.
so in chapter 2, it basically says these terms so these terms define any word mentioned throughout the ordinance. But then in chapter 16, says multifamily dwellings, it lists it as a special land use conditions for approving that special land use. We'll use the definition in that case for the special land use itself. So like all these things qualify as this specific special land use category. So if we were to look at, let's say we were to look at hotels and motels. If we were approving a hotel, it would have to be a facility offering transient lodging accommodations to the general public and providing additional services such as restaurants, meeting rooms, entertainment, and recreation facilities. Let's say somebody didn't have transient lodging associated with it, but they still wanted it to be a hotel. We wouldn't be able to approve that as a hotel because it doesn't meet those requirements. Or this is an even better one, indoor sports business. Using that definition, we wouldn't have been able to approve the driving range. We had to include that as a public park because it was all outdoors. It wasn't indoors. So if we wanted to approve an indoor sports business, it has to be in a building.
So 1648 multiple dwellings with more than 4 units.
Yeah, I think the best way to clean that up is to just say multi-unit housing and not multi-family dwellings. Or just clean up the language and make it
Just simply adding the word with more than 4 units is what this is referring to.
yeah.
So it's with.
So it does say more than 4 units on the title.
Changing dwellings to housing and then adding with more than 4 units.
Yeah, and I think having it in the definition is good because that,
That's simply what they're trying to do here is.
Yeah.
With 4 or more units, this is what they're talking
yeah.
about.
So we say multi-family housing because that's what's permitted in 8.2 or 8.3. Multi-family housing is permitted. We change multi-family dwellings to multi-family housing to clarify that that is the specific use in mind. And I think that would also take care of a lot of the interpretation struggle as well. Crazy, these were put in on the same ordinance too.
But these were all done on a word processor that never cross-referenced anything, and you couldn't go, hey, over here, knucklehead, you did this.
Done almost 15 years of, almost 20 years of putting in a patch. And
Can we go back to the poster?
that'd be great.
All that being said, we've got 6 units. They're asking for. That takes us back to special land uses. So a unit with more than, it's not a multifamily dwelling with more than 4 units though. It's 3 duplexes.
Yeah, either 3 duplexes or 6 standalone units.
Right. Sharing a common sewer system. And well, probably.
More than likely. They might have individual.
Not likely on that much property.
Yeah.
It's gotta
It'd
be,
probably be,
it's gotta be the same
Yeah.
distance away.
that'd be up to the health department.
It's gotta be 75 feet from the
Yes.
sewer system or anybody else's sewer system.
So at this point, what is it? I'm
So
just
essentially,
confused.
do you want to make the change to allow for smaller multifamily housing?
I think John said it. I think that
More
sounds a lot better than
flexibility.
putting in.
On the other hand, I don't think anybody's gonna be too happy with any of us.
If then all of a sudden they start
We
putting
just
that everywhere.
Have 3 duplexes going up, well, I'm not saying that's what's gonna happen, but it would just be the land of duplexes, because we allow 6 units on a property, like, I don't think anybody's gonna like that at all. I don't know, we allow up to 4 units right now, not very many people are doing it.
Yeah, so right now we could build 4 with what they have.
But it has to be in one
It
building.
all has to be in one building.
Right, you can't have 2 duplexes. Right now, you can only have either 1 duplex or 1 fourplex or triplex.
Is there any place around us that would allow 3 duplexes to go on one lot?
I don't know.
I mean, I don't think there are without a planned unit development or like a condo.
You know, part of me is just like, whatever, but on the other hand, something that substantial probably needs more oversight or like that.
I mean, this might not be a good example, but on Progress Drive, the Blue Lake. And that's all, I believe that's all one piece of land with all those houses on it.
Mhm.
And they're all rentals and run by the same agency.
Yep.
So it'd be, it wouldn't be as large, so essentially be maybe six buildings half that size. Or, 3 buildings roughly that same size.
If we change 1648, then if they meet all these requirements, there would be really no way for us to say no, right?
So it would still have to go through.
Under what circumstances would we be able to say, no, I don't really like the location where you're trying to put 3? Other places it would, if you just stuck with doing the planned urban development, then that you can literally, there's so much more leeway you have to say, this is not the right area for that type of housing or whatever.
Yeah, so 16.5 has the standards for considering a special land use. All of those standards have to be met. A special use is approved. So you can say the size, character, and nature of the building, structures comprising the special land use shall not have a substantial adverse effect on
Oh boy, that sounds like a real judgment call.
minor nearby lands.
Yeah, we can basically say no to any special land use.
Great, I love saying no just because I don't think it doesn't fit the character.
You know, but
That's essentially what you're looking to do.
Yeah. Of course, I'm just more of a black and white person, like, hey, if you meet these requirements, you have enough acreage, you have enough lot width, then sure, I'm gonna say yes to all of those. I hate getting into like, yeah, that's not the right neighborhood for that, because that just feels very judgmental.
I guess it still gives you,
It does give you an out,
it
yeah.
gives you lateral movement when 50 people show up and say, we don't want this next to our house. No way, this doesn't have, here's why. We still got lateral movement with it, I guess. Personally, I think they're gonna, I mean, I don't wanna tell them they can't try it, but I'm sure they're gonna run into a problem with a well and septic deal because of the setbacks required for the septic, the wells. But if they wanna run one well, now that puts them into a public water supply, which is a whole different set of rules and setbacks than an individual well is. I personally, I mean, it's not for me to tell them they can't. I guess.
Yeah.
I think because of the area, you know, I don't think.
I hate to change an entire ordinance for a one project that's not even gonna end up being feasible either. Like, do they actually have enough room so they wanna use one septic in the backyard or whatever, and they're gonna put 3 different wells or 6 different wells in the front yard, or, and do wells have to be spaced?
So,
Do wells have to be spaced, or just the well and septic have to be spaced from each other?
septic,
Okay.
yeah.
You could also just say negative land use development. And that way they would bear all the burden of proving the concept.
Why do we have the planned unit development set at 5 acres? Like, why is that necessary? If you're looking at a whole development, can't that be part of, like, is this parcel big enough to do this? Is it appropriate to do this without setting such a huge maximum? Or, sorry, huge minimum?
Yes, the general standard that
Doesn't mean-
in larger cities, you'll likely run into smaller redevelopment sites.
Mhm.
Right,
Just because there's so little land.
Right.
I think they're thinking larger scale out in the township. Where potentially you're opening up the door to somebody saying, you know, I've got a 5 acre, or I have a 2 acre parcel and I wanna, you know, I just wanna create my own set of rules where I can, you know, I have a house, I have maybe a sawmill or something. And I have 3 other side businesses and I want a building for each side business. And
So in here, when you say in order to allow this as a planned unit development, the minimum area would need to be changed to 60,000 square feet or less, you're suggesting that's not a good idea, because then you could run into what you were just saying. Because that's the only way to do it.
potentially,
Okay,
and
So
there's
what-
also typically a mixed use component where some are, you know, there's maybe a commercial entity on the site in conjunction with the residences, which might you know, depending on the project, and in Twin Lake, it might also work out really well. So that's something that we could also pursue, making that 1,000 square feet for a planned unit development. Or lower if you want. Yeah, planned unit development would put most of the upfront burden on the applicant.
So if we leave it at that, what do we need? Is there anything we need to change or anything at this point? We just need to change the 2 acres to 60,000 square feet?
Yeah, if we're doing the, if we're amending the special land use. If we're amending the PUD language, it would be changing the minimum area only.
The other funny thing we have going on here, I guess it's not really a funny thing, but every township has it, but you know, amending our PUD for Dalton Township isn't really the same thing. I mean, Twin Lakes is its own little thing, kind of small lots and this and that and everything else. So I mean, our ordinance is written for the township as a whole, right? Which the PUD fits 5 acres, not 1 acre, but you go to Twin Lakes and now it's a little different animal, almost like it should be its own overlay thing, like Whitehall Road or M120. But I know it's a whole bunch of work, but we run the same thing around the lakes, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's how we got the lake going. But don't want to make things more complicated either, but I do understand. You know, it's kind of its own little animal there. I guess.
So you're saying in order to encompass more, be more encompassing of the whole township, you think that the PUD should just be changed to be less? That way it's
No, I don't
Oh.
think it should be less because 99% of the township is
bigger, okay,
more rural.
I
guess,
got you,
and So,
okay.
but our ordinance is tries to fit everything, right?
Yeah.
Are we
That's
trying
what
to-
it's,
Do we want to try to do something different with the villages that are more?
Or are we solving a problem we don't have?
Right.
So I guess I'm trying to figure out how, not necessarily how we change this, what they want, but how do we get them to use this so they can do what we would like them to do, if that's possible.
I think the issue is they can't do what they want to do within the confines of the ordinance.
right, they could do 1 building with 4 units, or they could do 1 duplex. The 1 building with 4 units might fit them, I don't know, but.
Once you open up,
They already own the land.
They do. It's the land right across from the overboard.
Like across 120.
Between Fourth and
Okay.
railroad tracks.
So I have another question then. In 7.5A, number 2, when it says duplex and other 2-family dwelling requires 1 acre if it's not served by public sewer and public water. What if you change that? Then could he just split the parcel? And if you lowered that, like, is that unreasonable to say that a duplex needs a whole acre? Would a half-acre lot work for a duplex? Or is that not enough space for a duplex? Because if you change that to a half acre, then he
Enough space for my house? I live on a 1/2 acre lot.
okay,
Yeah, I mean,
is it feasible?
Everything that I thought was my backyard isn't actually mine, so.
Oh,
That's why the 20,000 lots are small.
okay.
They're small.
yeah, so I mean,
A lot of duplex then, right, like bigger ranch house.
Well, I just thought it was weird because it says one family dwelling, 1 acre, and then it says duplex, 1 acre, and I just, so, I mean,
I mean, I honestly, I think within the R2 district, it doesn't make sense to have, 1 acre minimums that match the 1 acre minimums in the R1 district.
right.
There's really no reason in having
Two
R2
different districts then, yes.
where there's no sewer. I think that, maybe 20 to 30,000 in that range could be appropriate for a,
Duplex.
or, if you're doing a single family on a septic, 20,000 in most areas where we're going to zone R2 anyway is appropriate.
Mm-hmm.
I think typically the rule of thumb is 1.5 times your single family for a duplex, so that would be 30,000.
Mhm.
So that would allow for this to be split for 2 duplexes.
But maybe it's not appropriate for 3 duplexes to be on 1.4 acres.
That's what I'm thinking. I mean,
I mean-
It's like we're trying to change something to fit, we're trying to pull a rabbit out of the hat here,
Right.
but it's necessarily gonna happen.
Right.
But would he would need to then split, he would need to split the lot then to do
Mhm.
that.
Yeah, so it is presently, I believe it's 2 lots presently. So you would more than likely need to do a boundary adjustment. Figure something out.
I mean, if you go with 6 houses on that, you're looking at 10,000 square foot lot.
Yeah.
Half what, I mean,
Which is what's permitted on a sewer system.
right.
We'll go back to where we started.
It's back to saying we don't have a sewer there yet. Sorry, buddy.
Now that you say it's over across from the Overboard Inn, like, is there really a market for people to live in that area? Like, how feasible is this
There's
development?
not a lot of rentals in the Twin Lake area.
There's nothing out there.
But aren't you pinning this now between the Overboard Inn and M120? Is that what you're saying?
But it's kind of pinned in there, but if there's a market for rentals, renters usually aren't too picky.
And there's not much out there, I mean, there's not, ain't much.
We're renting.
It's expensive,
How much is it? Can we bring our dog?
right.
So at this point, are we tabling it or do we? I mean, we haven't really,
He wants to know what direction we want to
The
go.
discussion is this something we can
Yeah.
think
Is this
about?
something we
I mean,
want to
I
change?
guess I'm okay, myself, I'm okay with, I'm just running with what, he can currently have a 4-unit building on his property right there, right? He can't, we don't allow him to have 2 duplexes because the property's not big enough.
but if he split it,
Yeah,
if he split the property, he could then do a duplex and a duplex.
we would have to change the ordinance for that.
Right, because we need to allow a 1/2 acre.
But if he can do a 4-plex right now, isn't that basically 2 duplexes connected together?
Yeah,
That's what I'm saying, that's what I'm saying.
Right, if he can already do that, then,
But in the ordinance, it doesn't let him do that now, correct?
no, he can do a build 2 duplexes as long as they're connected together.
But he couldn't do the,
He can't do 2 duplexes separated, right?
Because the lot size needs to be 1 acre.
But he wants to do 3.
That's not a question.
I guess where I'm going with it is I don't think there would be much.
It behooves him to get with do a duplex, to get with the health department on the well and the septic system, sharing a well with 4 dwellings.
Well, in 1648, he also could do, because it says more than 4 units. So he could do like a building with 6 units connected, except he doesn't have 2 acres. That's the only thing holding him back from that, right? Okay,
It just all comes down to the density without having a septic.
right.
Or public sewer, yeah. But, yeah, so since our ordinance already allows the 4-unit building, I personally think it would be unreasonable to adjust the ordinance enough that a duplex is allowed on half an acre instead of 1 acre. Or 30,000 square feet, like you say, 30,000, because right now the minimum is 20,000. You go times 1.5, so you allow a duplex on 30,000.
But
This would give people a little more wiggle room.
then you could just have 2 duplexes. You still could not have what he wants to do.
So,
Because he only has like 65,000 square feet or 64,000 square feet.
but it gives them an option of a 4-unit building or 2 2-unit building.
Yeah.
I guess without
That's
going
true.
way outside of the overall scope, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still on him to check with the health department.
Setbacks and all that.
I guess, to me, that's trying to give them a little more flexibility. Out
It's
with what the ordinance already says, I guess.
the easiest way to try and accommodate without having to.
Right, or get too dense without.
I think it gives them a solution. It's just not the one he saw. So I think we're on that path. Are there any other questions on that or anything else you'd like? All right, that brings us to, at the end of our night, we have a thing here that someone would like to announce that there's somebody to approve.
Make motion to adjourn.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, we'll end it at 7:09. All right.
But can you ask him first? Because I don't want to change the ordinance if he's like, no, I don't want to build 2 duplexes. I only want 3.
This is the example, exactly why we start this thing, like pulling on the thread. And next thing you know,